Hi, I'm Katie Ratterman, and Rocky Parrinello and I will be presenting our final unit design project using the PBL strategy to teach our students about ancient American civilizations. This project will ask students to choose one of the three ancient American civilizations, either the Aztecs, Incas, or Mayans, to explore the culture and the impact that that civilization had. Students will create either a documentary using WeVideo, a website using Google Sites, or a podcast using Podomatic. So they will be able to choose their civilization and their technology tool of choice. They will present their artifacts and research to the class through a gallery walk, and they will evaluate and provide feedback on each other's presentations. Finally, they will publish their project on the classroom website.
Okay, so as far as the learners we have in the classroom, it's a 10th grade world history class. It's a team talk class, which means there's both a special education teacher as well as a history content teacher in the classroom. 8 of the 24 students do have an IEP, which is why there are 2 teachers in that class to support those students with the IEP. 3 students have been identified as EL learners or still have some challenges with language. The majority of our class come from a lower to middle socioeconomic class status, as well as we have students from very diverse backgrounds.
The standards that we're using for this project will ask our students to evaluate historical developments and methods used by people and institutions to promote change. They will also analyze factors of historical context that influence the perspectives of people in different historical eras, as well as looking at groups and institutions in the struggle for safety, freedom, equality, and justice. Our objectives for the project will ask students to complete a couple of tasks with 90% accuracy. They will define 3 main features of their assigned civilization. They'll identify and explain a lasting legacy of their civilization. They will be able to identify the location and the historical time period in which their civilization existed. They'll state events leading up to the conquest and ultimate downfall of the civilization they've chosen, and they will evaluate their classmates' presentations.
So, the reason why we pick the prescriptive strategy for learning with our students as project based learning is because they'll be gaining their knowledge and skills on this topic by researching and responding to the question as to which American civilization had the greatest impact on society. So, we really thought based on the different steps to project based learning, this is what fit best. So, you can see how we broke it down. Obviously, we start with that essential question as to, in their opinion, based on their research, which civilization had the greatest legacy in regards to what they've left behind. The sustained inquiry will be their days of research that they will do on learning specifically about the advancements, culture, heritage of the civilization that they've chosen. The authenticity will be the fact that they're going to take a look and see how these legacies or how these achievements have impacted society today. In regards to student voice and choice, they're picking the civilization they want to research, as well as the type of project that they're going to use to showcase their knowledge, whether it be a website, a documentary, or a podcast, as well as we'll have that gallery walk in which students can provide feedback to each other. And then, of course, time for revision before they post their product publicly on the Lake Park School website.
The technologies that our students will be using to create their final product include Google Sites, which will allow students to create their own website about their civilization, WeVideo, so students can make a documentary to share the research that they've done, or Podomatic to create a podcast. Other important technologies include the library databases for students to do their research, student Chromebooks. Our school is one-to-one with Chromebooks for every student, and Google Classroom as well.
Okay, so as far as day-to-day instruction, our paper really does go much more specifically into what the students are expected to do on each day. So we're going to give you a brief synopsis. On the first day, we felt like it was imperative that before they chose our civilization, we do a brief introduction to the Aztec, the Inca, and the Mayan. So we would have them through a lecture and presentation take notes in regards to these three different civilizations in a very unique way, which you'll see with the handouts that we have. We're also then on day 2 going to see what they remember, right? What did they gain from our presentation and introduction to these civilizations by having our students do a book it and then some discussion based on the advancements of those three civilizations. And then finally, by the end of day 2, they will be selecting the civilization they feel had the greatest impact on society with the most impactful legacy. And then day 3 and 4 are really similar. They're going to be, we do have some websites we're going to give them to help guide their research for all three civilizations. But on those 2 days, with a graphic organizer, they are going to be conducting research using Google to learn more about their civilization of choice.
On days 5 and 6, our students will be working on creating their final products. So, students will begin to compile their research into whichever technology tool they choose, whether it's the website, the documentary, or the podcast. They'll take the information from their graphic organizer and start making a template format for their final product. To ensure that each of the students are meeting the project requirements, they'll have a rubric that they can use to check off the minimum expectations, and we as teachers will monitor student progress and conference with them as well. By the end of day 6, students should have their almost completed final product to share with the class, and students will be given instructions to publish their final project in whichever way they need to, depending on the technology tool that they chose. On day 7, we will start the gallery walk. Every student will have submitted a link to their final project, and that will all be shared on a Google Sheet posted to the Google Classroom page. Students will select one project to view and peer evaluate using a Google form. And then on day 8, students will evaluate one more project of their peers. And finally, before the end of class, on day 8, students will share their final product on the school webpage.
As far as differentiation or accommodations, this is something that, because we're a team talk class, we do quite often, right? Every day we provide accommodations for our students, whether it be one-on-one instruction for specific students based on their individual needs. Oftentimes, when we have larger projects like this, we'll chunk that information and help structure and organize it for them so they can be successful. Oftentimes, we provide things like completed notes. And of course, we will, even with this project, offer extended time for our students. Some more project specific accommodations will be that graphic organizer to help guide their research. For students that might struggle with the creativity and the structure of creating a website, we will provide a template in which you copy a Google site, in which you create a template for them to potentially utilize, so it helps them organize their information better, as well as, of course, our project lends itself to differentiation because we offer the 3 different formats for them to showcase their understanding and knowledge of the storytelling with the podcast, or the verbal linguistic structure of the website, and then finally, once again, the documentary. Some assistive technology we think could be helpful is that Google voice typing with the information they'll be including on their website, or as they're telling their story for their podcast, having a script that they write. Google Read and Write, which could help read the websites to them for our struggling readers, as well as predictive writing that the Google Write portion incorporates of that. And then finally, for our EL learners, we thought Google Translate would be a very useful tool with both reading and writing.
These are some examples of the student handouts, notes that students would be taking on each of the civilizations on day 1 of the assignment. And this handout is the graphic organizer that students would use to organize their research. It tells them what different topics they need to research, how many points they need to have for each topic, a place for them to cite their source, and give a summary so they know kind of what the important information from each resource was.
And then finally, this is a Artifact. This is a potential student website. This is just the homepage of the website, and you can see it's organized with location and time period, additional information, and then legacy. But you can see the verbal piece, right? That small little paragraph, as well as the visual application of this type of project. So, as far as digital content, the other thing, as far as digital content, we do have this linked here as well as linked in our paper. But what this is this gives the students a checklist as far as objectives, as well as a place where they can find and access all of our handouts, graphic organizers, and then at the end of this student resource page, we have multiple links available for each civilization.
The categorization we felt applied to our project most closely was the modification. Um, it's clear that students are using technology in this project um, to conduct their research. In lieu of paper and pencil tasks, they're using a brand new vehicle of information dissemination, whether it's the website, the podcast, or the documentary, and they are publishing their artifacts to be viewed by the Lake Park community.
As far as evaluation, we have a formative tool of Book It, and then, of course, the rubric, and then including a unit assessment on the Americas are a part of our summative evaluations.
We'll also assess the effectiveness of the unit using a Google form, which will be given to students on Google Classroom. We'll ask them questions about their research, the feedback on other students' projects, and to rate their understanding.
And so here are some of the references that we used. We hope that you enjoyed our project. We are truly looking forward to putting this project into action within our classroom.